This is ABC Fora.
Ladies and gentlemen, what do I mean by guilt about the past? I mean a guilt that affects not just individuals, but entangles an entire generation and even casts a shadow on later generations. There are many angles from which to explore the topic. Tonight, I would like to approach it from the question of whether and how such guilt can be overcome. By forgiveness, by reconciliation, who can ask for forgiveness and who can forgive? How can reconciliation be achieved? And I would like to begin with a memory. When I was a child, my day ended with a prayer. Before my mother gave me a goodnight kiss, she watched over me as I thanked God for the good things that had happened to me during the day, as I had to confess my failings and promise to improve, as I talked about what I had planned for the next day, as I asked for his guidance, and as I prayed for his mercy on those I knew to be sick or in distress. On the nights there weren't too many offerings of thanks, confessions, reports, and requests, I closed the prayer with an Our Father. One evening I asked God to forgive me for hurting my brother or one of my sisters. After the prayer, my mother wanted to know if I had asked for forgiveness from the brother or sister themselves. No, I had not done that. She replied that then I had no right to ask God for forgiveness and that God does not grant forgiveness as long as we have not sought it from those we have injured. We can ask God for forgiveness, she continued, only after our attempt has failed, because the other person is too hurt, stubborn, or self-righteous to forgive, or if they are dead and can no longer forgive. I think that my mother was right. If a person doesn't believe in a forgiving God, then they has to live with their guilt when they can no longer obtain forgiveness from the person they injured. No one can step in as a replacement for the victim to offer forgiveness. Forgiveness granted by someone other than the victim is presumptuous. In seeking forgiveness, there is no stepping in as a replacement either. Asking for forgiveness requires the perpetrator to acknowledge that they committed the act that harmed the victim, to affirm their own guilt, and to also recognize the right of the victim to grant or to deny forgiveness, to lift the burden of guilt from the perpetrator or to leave them carrying it. No one can forgive in the victim's stead, and no one can ask for forgiveness for acts he or she didn't commit. Asking for forgiveness in the perpetrator's stead may be not as presumptuous as granting forgiveness in the victim's stead, but most often it sounds equally wrong. Imagine the Minister of the Interior who seeks forgiveness for the damages the soccer fans of his country have caused in another country. Or a cardinal who seeks forgiveness for the suffering that the priests under his watch have inflicted on the children entrusted to their care. Or a chief of police who seeks forgiveness for the brutality employed by his officers on duty. They all sound wrong. Perhaps the police chief did not supervise his officers properly. The cardinal did not pay attention to the complaints lodged by children and parents. and the Minister of the Interior neglected the problems with rioting football fans, then they are themselves guilty. If they would seek forgiveness for their own guilt, it would have weight. To ask for forgiveness for someone else's guilt is cheap.
This is ABC Fora.